Hi there. In a world where nothing is certain, that means anything is possible, right? If you want to fulfill your dreams and desires, you are in the right place. You absolutely can have a life of happiness. Everyone deserves an abundance of love, laughter, success, health, and wealth. I'm Tara Chadzakis, and you're listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. The show that brings you meditation, mindset, and motivation. So start by giving yourself permission to be awesome. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to this episode of Happy, Inspired, Motivated. Today, I am joined by Robert, who is an international best-selling author, an app designer, an entrepreneur, and a trainer. And Robert has spent the past 18 years traveling around the world sharing his passion. Now, what's his passion? Well, he has a lot of high energy and he's really got a heartfelt style. And Robert draws on his journey from where he started to financial freedom at the age of 32. And he is passionate about inspiring other individuals to tap into their greatness. Robert's clues open individuals up to the possibilities that lie within them, and that is why he's such a highly sought after presenter. And you'll hear about how he helps people unlock their full potential and step into their power during this interview. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Robert, and I hope you enjoy the episode. If you do, please make sure that you subscribe, rate and review this show so that more people can find the information they're looking for at the right time. So hi, Robert, and welcome to Happy, Inspired, Motivated. How are you doing today?
I'm all three. I'm happy, I'm inspired, and I am motivated.
Awesome. And that's why you're on the show.
That's exactly it. We've already been having fun and we've just begun. So I'm loving that.
Exactly. The things are just going to get better, aren't they? The more we dive into stuff and see what comes up. Let's have a quick chat then. So, Robert, tell me a little bit about what you do and how you help people in this world.
Yeah, I am very blessed that I'm an international best-selling author. I'm an app designer. I'm a serial entrepreneur. But one of the things I love the most that I am is I'm a trainer that's been blessed to travel around the world, impacting lives for the last 18 plus years. And I've personally trained over 500,000 people how to create financial freedom in their life, how to live a life that is a happier, more holistic, because it's not just about money. You've got to cover the mental, the emotional, spiritual, physical, and the financial. So I've been, living my passion for almost 20 years and just loving that.
That's amazing. And who doesn't want to be happy and full of joy and have great finances too? So you've got like the perfect combination. So tell me a bit about your book first. What's your book called and what's that all about?
Yeah, my book that I released 4 years ago is called Success Left a Clue. And from my traveling around the world, I started noticing things with successful people that what did they have in common? And so I came up and designed 6 steps and Tara, stuff that I needed for me. I want to be clear with my audience. I wrote the book a lot for me because it's what would help me through my day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. And when I go through the 6 steps, it's not a book that you read, actually, though. It's interesting. I created it as a workbook. Okay. And the reason is because one of the biggest differences I noticed between people, especially entrepreneurs that have success and people that don't, is that step number 3 is taking action. And a lot of people, they'll get a book, they'll read it, they'll put it up on the shelf, it becomes shelf help. And then they wonder why their life doesn't change.
Oh, I'm guilty of that, Robert.
Oh, so am I. I've got both hands up, both feet up on that one. I'm guilty as well. So because I knew it's something I needed in my life, I wrote it as a workbook where all the way through I give action steps. And I'll actually say, before you read any further, complete this action. And then as the next chapter begins, first thing it says is, if you have not completed the last action, stop reading now, go back and complete
Go back and do it.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching them. You're like, I know you haven't done it. Put the book down and go do it.
Right. And it's like, because it's the mirror's on me, right?
Yes.
and that's one of the things I love to teach people is that, look, I may have a life that very few people have and a lot of people dream of, but I'm no different than anybody else. I go through the ups, I go through the downs, And I really look at, who am I? I do a lot of introspecting to say, who am I? Where am I at? Where do I want to go?
Mm.
And then I just keep taking steps forward, and to do that. And I'm always working on me, because I know if I quit working on me, I'm kind of done. And
Yeah.
then that's how I can then share the real life that's happened to other people, so I can relate to them, instead of being that figure on the stage just going, I know everything, you know nothing, type thing. So
There's quite a few people that do that. Look at me, I'm amazing. Follow me. I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, if you can't relate it to your own life, that's the
yeah,
difficult thing, isn't it? It's great to look at these people and be inspired by them and like listen to what they're teaching. But if you can't relate that to your own life, you get really stuck and you get overwhelmed because you don't know how to implement it. And that's really difficult.
exactly, that's it.
So with your so you're a trainer. Is that what you do through the stage, or do you do training on a group level or a one-to-one level as well?
Well, yeah, there was kind of the BC before COVID, and now
Yes.
the AC after COVID. For the last 18 plus years, it's primarily been me traveling around the world doing 3 to 5 day trainings, where I'm on stage up to 12 hours a day in front
Hmm.
of audiences anywhere from 100 to 6,000 students at a time. Of
Wow.
course, COVID shut all that down, and
Mm,
I've been transitioning over to doing more live trainings
mm,
on Zoom and doing groups. And I'm also, because I love training trainers, one of my passions, Tara, I love to take someone, be able to watch them and say, okay, stop, lift your head a little bit, turn your head this way, put a pause in there. And I work on them to become more authentic and more
mhm.
connected on the stage, whether it's virtual or a live stage. So I've now, my wife and I are just finishing. We completed we're about a week away from completing our add-on studio training center to our property here. So instead of
Awesome.
me traveling around the world, yeah, my students are going to come and travel here, and we'll do group masterminds. I'll do some group trainings, but a lot of it will be one-on-one, where I really work them over and show them how to be the greatest they can be on the stage.
Mm,
And the reason I do that, it's a little bit of a selfish reason, is because I want to help as many people as I can. And I know there's people with such amazing information. They just get stuck up here. They get
yeah.
stuck in their head. And so when they try to teach it to someone, they may be okay or even good, but they're not as powerful as they could be, which means it holds them back from impacting as many lives as they could.
Mm.
So if I can assist them in just being their most amazing self, having a conversation with their audience, then that means they're going to help more people. And that's what fills me inside.
Oh, I
So
just love that. Unleashing people's potential and power and passion is just so important because people just don't realize what they have within them. They get stuck, don't they, in the
right.
day-to-day life, but they could just be so, if they just took the chance on themselves, they could be phenomenal and they could impact so many people all over the world. It's
And
crazy.
that's it. And that's why, like, the second step in my book is find a mentor or someone to model from.
Mm,
And because this is where, so as an example, if I'm coaching someone to be an even greater trainer, if they start with some self-doubt, and I tell them, let me be your cheerleader until you own it enough in confidence,
mm.
not arrogance,
No,
but in
no.
confidence, you own your greatness enough, because I see in you what you're not seeing in yourself yet. And a
Yeah.
lot of the greatest gifts that people have to give the world
Mm,
comes from the hardest times they've gone through. And so when I can tap in, and that's where people are afraid to go, but Robert, I don't know if I want to share that dark time of my life.
mm.
And it's like, but do you realize that by sharing that experience of your life, there's going to be people in the audience going, wow, it's not just me that's had this happen or has felt this
Yeah.
way. And that's how you create a deeper connection with people, to really help them go and unleash that greatness that's inside of them, and to be able, and it doesn't even have to be, well, I don't know if I can help thousands of people. If you can help
Yeah.
one person maybe get through a trial with a little less pain, would that be worth it? And to me, it is. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the motivation that I have when I see people that have such amazingness. And I'm like, you know, let's work with you to get you even just more present so that you can
Yeah.
help as many people. So, yeah.
Hi there, this is me popping into my own episode. It's Tara Chadzakis here. I'd just love to invite you to have a call with me just to see how we can help you move forward and really make changes in your life that are going to be life changing. I know from personal experience that, you want to move into a different mindset or you want to have more, attract more abundance, love, joy, and laughter into your life. And people say to you, do the positive thinking and positive affirmations and all of these things. But often when you're in the space where you really need that change, it's hard because you can't imagine a different reality. You can't envisage what life could look like. And that's where I come in. So I can help you overcome those obstacles and really get you tapping into the universal energies that create abundance, love, and joy and laughter. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes so that you can book yourself a call with me. It's no obligation whatsoever. Just find out where you are and what kind of things I could help you with if you're looking to make the change today. And also just give you a few tips to help you on your way, whether or not we work together. So I'll leave it in the notes for you and let's continue with the episode. Yeah, and that just helping that one person, the ripple effect from that, you're helping their whole family, their friendship circle, the whole society around them. So you're actually impacting 20, 30 people without even realizing it because their lives are
Yes.
improved. And so it's, one person is often enough to get started with because it has a massive effect. So,
Yes.
so tell
And,
me,
and I
Robert,
love
about,
that.
sorry, carry on. Say again.
I was going to say, with the ripple effect, I love the ripple effect, but my goal is I want to create a tsunami of change. I
Ooh,
want just a tsunami of changes is what drives me. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's not just a pebble, it's got to be a whole, I don't know, mountain that you're throwing in the sea, and
well,
that's going to
and,
create it.
and I'll give you a great example of that because you don't know who you're going to impact. I was
No.
doing a training a few years ago, and I was teaching a room of 300 people how to train in accelerated learning, the kind of training style I use. And I use the talk about I don't want to just be the pebble. I want to be the tsunami of change. I want to throw a boulder in there.
Mm.
And a woman in the audience got emotional. And so I noticed it and I said, look, do you want to share what's coming up for you right now? And she kind of looked at me and she says, what do you mean? I said, I see something's changing in you. Something's emotional. I said, if you don't want to share, that's fine. But if you do, we'd love to know what's going on.
Mm.
And she had the courage to stand up and what she's talking about. And I'm already lit up for her. I just like, you can never plan stuff, right?
No.
She says, well, what you just said changed my life right now because what you don't know is last year, my daughter was with a bunch of friends down in Mexico. They were river rafting and a boulder came down off the cliff and landed on my daughter in the boat.
Oh my
And she's
God.
been in a wheelchair and she's been paralyzed for, since then. And we've been looking at it as such a negative thing. But I just realized from her journey, because she's starting to get better, she's got an outlook on life I've never had. Like, I don't know
Mm.
what drives her to keep having a positive outlook that things are going to get better. She said, when you just said that, I realized I can reframe my thinking and that we are about to make a boulder of change. And she took her whole life and she changed her branding to be all around the boulder of change in life, tying into the story of her daughter, and her and her
Perfect.
daughter now impact hundreds and hundreds of lives.
Mm.
And
Yeah, we
could I have known that?
no, but that's awesome. That's so
Yeah, that's
amazing.
great.
It's like it gives you goosebumps thinking about it, doesn't it? That's crazy. So tell me about your journey. So your beginnings and how you became this phenomenal man that you are today.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for saying I am phenomenal. Some people may disagree with you, and you know what? That's absolutely okay. But I grew up actually close to most of my life to where I am back to now, and at a young age, I was moving around a lot because my parents, just to support our family, would move from town to town, city to city, just to keep working.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was normal. Never spent more than 6 months in any one school, and that was normal. And
Yeah,
I'm a naturally shy person. And so, not knowing how long I was going to be someone, I wanted to make friends quickly. And I would do some weird things just to get friends because I'd like, I don't know if I'm going to be moving in the next couple of weeks. And so, growing up, my parents taught me that what they were saying was, Robert, you can do anything you put your mind to. That's what they were saying. But what they were modeling was, You have to work hard. You have to do, even if you don't like the job, you have to do it because you take care of your family. And so
Yeah.
that's the programming that was ingraining inside of me. So when I entered the workforce at a young age, I started working hard. I started staying loyal, and because it was like, I'm here for long term.
Mm.
And so now imagine I'm newly married and I'm 21, and all of a sudden I'm laid off from the third company. A company I
Ouch.
thought yeah, all three companies they've shut down or downsized. This one was closing the factory I was working in.
Mm.
And I'm like, I thought I was going to work for this company for 40 years. They had factories all over North America. And so I
Yeah.
was a little devastated. Now, I look back and I go, thank goodness I learned this lesson back then,
Mm.
that if I wanted any kind of control in my life, I have to take control of it. Because no matter how big the company, I'm still just another number. And where I
Yeah.
live, we have oil. And so if oil prices are good, the economy does well. If oil prices are down, we struggle. And in
Mm.
1989, we were in the middle of an economic downturn, and I couldn't find a real job. So I started delivering pizzas as a way of supporting my family.
Yeah.
Now I started making more money, and having more fun delivering pizzas than I was making in my real job, because I would work hard and I would be there, and I was the old guy. At 21, I was the old guy in the store because all the other drivers 16, 17. So they wanted to party. So none of them wanted to work a lot. So I could always switch shifts and get extra shifts. So I was doing really well, making money. But then I ended up, my franchisee bought 2 stores in another city in exchange for the one he had. And so I wanted something more permanent. I asked if he needed a manager. We talked for a couple hours. 2 weeks later, I moved, started managing. My wife, when we were able to move her up a month later, she became my assistant manager. And we started
Oh.
doing what, Tara? We started working hard, open
Mm-hmm.
to close 7 days a week. Just over a year into that, I'm now qualified to be a franchisee. In Domino's Pizza, one of the reasons they grew so quickly is you can't just buy a store. You actually have to successfully manage a store for at least a year, meet a bunch of criteria. And if you do, you have the right to be a franchisee.
Okay.
And they'll waive the upfront franchise fee, which is great. But the problem is you still have to either pay to build or buy a store.
Mm.
And I'm qualified, but we don't have any money. And all of a sudden we find out, my franchisee says, I'm I don't like Domino's anymore. I'm selling my 2 stores. And our mind went to a new owner. The first thing they do is they get rid of the managers. And we went into
Okay.
panic mode. And we're like, what are we going to do? And my mind went, well, we'll find another store or another franchisee. We know a few of them. We'll see who needs a manager. And my wife said, no, why don't we buy this store? We're qualified to be franchisees. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't have any money, right? A little bit of a problem there.
It's all these
Uh,
minor detail, Robert. Come on.
right? Well, the one thing that we do have that served us really, really well is we have passion. And if there's something we really want to do, we're going to find a way to make it work. And it took about 4 months of making a lot of mistakes.
Mm.
Like someone would say, hey, I can get you guys financing, guaranteed. Now my fee is upfront is $1,000. Pay me the fee. I'll get you the financing. So we pay him the fee, money we didn't really have. Next thing you know, oh, sorry, no, none of my lenders are willing to lend you money. And
Nice.
so, yeah, we went through this journey and we learned a lot in that 4 months.
Mm.
But because we were always looking for what did we learn, we ended up being able to not buy the store we were working in. We ended up buying both the stores he had for sale. And we ended up doing it with 100% financing, no money of our own.
Wow.
And yeah, we became franchisees. Now, the interesting thing is we knew how to run a store, but we didn't know how to run a business.
Yes.
As you know, Tara, there's two totally different
Very
things.
different things.
Very different. And we struggled through, we made it work, and we were franchisees for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
However, because we didn't know why we spent money the way we did, by the 8-year mark, we were over $150,000 in debt, and we were going down quickly. And I don't know if you've experienced financial stress, but to me, it's one of the worst stresses anybody ever goes through.
Yeah, it is.
Certainly
Yeah.
was for us.
Mm.
And we, at the 8-year mark, all of a sudden we were introduced to personal development, something we had kind of ignored before, didn't believe in, but out of someone giving us tickets to an evening, it started our life on this journey. And we went to a 3-day weekend. And from that weekend, we now understood why we were in debt, took ownership that it was our decisions that put us there,
Mm-hmm.
and had some practical steps to take to get out of debt. And we were able to actually take the information, remember, take action, something we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We actually started putting it in action, and we ended up going from $150,000 in debt to actually being completely retired, financially free 9 months later at the age of 32.
That's awesome. My God. It's like I say, financial debt is a massive burden. And one of the biggest steps is taking responsibility for it, which a lot of people don't. They blame the economy or this or that or the other. But it's
Yes,
down to your choices, isn't it?
it is. It is. And when we created that financial freedom, all of a sudden our mind went, well, if this much information gave us that result, what would more learning do? And that's when we dove in and became students. We wanted to learn from as many masters as we could. And that's when I found my passion was to teach, because it went back to something I told you earlier. I felt that if I could help
Mm-hmm.
one person do what my wife and I have been able to accomplish, go from debt to financial freedom, it'd be all worthwhile. And on that journey, I've now helped over 500,000 people personally that I've trained. And if you look at the ripple effect and you use an example of, say, 20 people each that they impact, well, 500,000, that's now 10 million people that I've maybe had an impact on because of the people that have been in my audience. And so I've been living my passion for the last 18 plus years and just loving life and loving helping people.
That's great. So do you and your wife, you both do the same business together? Because I mean, I haven't seen her. I didn't see her on the book cover, so it's obviously your book. So, does she really? That's my book too. Do you work together in the business?
Yeah, we always have been very blessed. My wife and I, we met when we were 13. We started dating when we were 16.
Oh,
We actually got married when we were 19, and we just celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary.
oh,
And I
congratulations.
will tell you, oh, thank you. I have no problem admitting I would not be here today doing what I do if it wasn't for her.
Hmm.
Because of my programming, I was taught you stay in that box. You don't think outside of it. Don't think of being an entrepreneur. You just find that job. But my wife, when we met, the joke is I was innocent until I met my wife. And then she corrupted me. But she corrupted me in so many great ways because she was the out of the box thinker saying, just because they say it's that way, why do you think you have to believe it? Well, they're the bosses. They're the authority. They know. Really? Do they? And so she's the one that's got us thinking in different directions. And so when I became a trainer, because we'd worked in our stores together, when I became a trainer, she's the quiet behind the scenes person.
Hmm.
And she became the logistics supervisor that would run all the events. And so then we were still working together and traveling together. And then when she decided to step back from doing that,
Hmm.
a couple of years before I took a break, because I'll tell you, I don't want your audience, Tara, to think that our life has always just been amazing and perfect. That's why I have no problem sharing the stories of our downturns.
Yeah.
When I was training in 4.5 years, my first 4.5 years, I was over living my passion.
Hmm.
I was training so much. On average, we were only at home 2 days a month. And I was
Wow.
loving what I was doing, but I
Hmm.
wasn't taking care of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
giving, giving, giving. And I got burnt out and I decided I had to take a year off. Well, that year turned into 3.5 years off because not only was I burnt out, but I hadn't taken care of my health and I ended up going through 2 back surgeries. I had herniated a disc. And so my wife had stepped back 2 years before I took my break. And when she stepped back from running events, because here's the thing, we were together, but we weren't together. With her running logistics, she was up an hour before me and usually in bed 1 to 2 hours after me. And so even though I was spending 12 hours a day on stage, she was running 15, 16, 17, 18-hour days just
Hmm.
to run the events. So
Yeah.
even though we were there together, we were never able to connect because we couldn't sit down at meals. And so she stepped back and she still traveled with me. And all of a sudden she became my greatest coach because she could sit at the back of the room and she knows me better than anyone. And if someone was bugging me at a break, she'd be like, what's going on? Nothing. Yeah. And you know how that works, right? And she's like, don't give me that. What's going on? And so she'd be able to pull out of me what was blocking me, what was stopping me. So she became my greatest coach. And so, yeah, I'm very blessed that we've worked together. So when it came to writing the book, she was the one that was finally kicking me in the butt saying, get the book out there, get it written, quit procrastinating. Because I will tell you, I am a world-class procrastinator.
And what do you
I am
do when
a
you
pro.
procrastinate, though? I tend to either clean or I study. I study or clean. That's what I do.
For me, is procrastinate social media or games.
Oh, nice.
and that's and you know, and that's the thing. But what I've learned to do, because instead of denying I'm a procrastinator, because I know I am, then it's like, instead of going, oh my goodness, you're a procrastinator, and shaming myself around it, I say, how can I utilize this knowledge in my favor? So there's a quote that I came up with that says this: I design my day in such a way that procrastination cannot play. And here's what I mean by that. Because I know that if it's left to me and I don't have something to do in the morning, I'll work out. I'll get up and work out. Now, if I'm making the commitment myself, how many of us have a hard time keeping up commitments to ourselves, right? Because those are easy commitments to break. But if we make a commitment to someone else, I will follow through on my commitments to other people 9.9 times out of 10. It's so important to me. So what I do is I, on purpose, schedule my meetings, my phone calls, interviews, all for early in the morning. So I have to get up, because I know the moment I'm up and going, right? Yeah. And so I've learned to work with the fact that I'm procrastinating. And then I allow myself to have times where I do procrastinate, and it's okay. Because, if you don't take care, I learned that if I don't take care of me, then I can't take care of other people. And so it's that constant ebb and flow, that constant journey. And so the other way I do it is I live by this schedule on my phone. But the first thing I schedule in, my wife and I will sit down and schedule in our balance pieces. Time together, time for ourselves, time with family. We put those on the schedule first, because then we know we're taking care of us. And then once we've got that in, we can work as much as we want the rest of the schedule, because we're taking care of the important things first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, putting yourself as a priority is really important. I was actually talking about that with somebody today, that if you give and you don't allow yourself to be a priority as well, then, like you said, you burn out, or you have dis-ease in your body, or something happens to make you stop, because you can't keep going like that.
No. And I didn't believe it until I put myself through it, right?
Yeah.
and like when I went through my first back surgery, I was laid up in bed, could not move for over 6 weeks before I got the first surgery. Felt so great. I didn't listen to the doctor. 3 weeks later, I re-herniated the same disc and ended up back in the hospital. And it took 3 weeks for the swelling to go down enough that they could redo it. And the moment I woke up from the second surgery, I'm like, I'm never going through that again. Yeah. I will listen to whatever you tell me to do. And now 12 years later, I don't have to take medication for my back. I'm very aware of my body, because if it starts to get sore, for me, long walks. I go on long walks, that loosens my back up. And the beautiful byproduct of that, when I'm walking, I become more present. And also when I'm more present, that's when the brilliance comes through. And all of a sudden, the ideas. And so one of the things I love for your listeners, entrepreneurs, wherever you are, one of my clues that I have in my book is write it down. Write it down. Because how often does a thought come in, you go, I'll remember that, and then 10 seconds later, it's gone, and you're like, that was brilliant. What was it? And then you can't remember it, right? Has that happened to you?
Definitely, yes.
Right? So that's the other way that this phone comes in, is I am constantly on my notes or voice recording. As soon as something hits me that I want to remember, I don't rely on my brain to take care of it. I get it down, I write it or speak it, so that then I know I have it captured, and then I can let it go, and I can come back to being present instead of being caught in the past or the future trying to figure things out.
I do that quite a lot, and sometimes it's like, because the silence is when you get the downloads, isn't it, and the inspiration. Yeah. And it can happen to me when I'm sleeping, so I'll suddenly wake up and I'll be like, where's my phone? Pick up and I'm a voicemail. So, and when I listen back to it, I'm like, what did I even say? But I'm listening really carefully because my voice is like really croaky because I'm in the middle of sleep. But if it comes, I've got to get it down.
Yeah. And that's it. And that's so critical. And people go, but I'll remember. And that's why I actually, one of the ways I anchor it in to remind myself to write things down. And people think I'm putting myself down when I say this, but I say I have only one brain cell left, and I'm doing everything I can to take care of that brain cell. And they go, Robert, you have more than one brain cell. Why are you putting yourself down? And I'm like, I'm not. It's a reminder for me to not try to remember everything.
Yeah.
To use systems, to use the technologies that are there so that I can free my mind up to be actually connected. Because how many times, and I know you've experienced this, Tara, you're having a conversation with someone and they may be there physically, but mentally and emotionally, they're somewhere else. Have you ever had that happen?
Yep, definitely.
And so to me, and most of the times because the person's overwhelmed or they're trying to remember stuff and they're like, yeah, I'm having this conversation, but yeah, well, tomorrow I'm going to get this done. And their mind's going in 1,000 other places. And for one of my practices, for me, a way of meditating is I learned a lesson years ago that because I did an amazing 4-day Zen retreat where it's 4 days of silence.
Excellent.
Now,
yeah,
you don't know me well, but picture me 4 days not speaking.
I can imagine it'd be a struggle for me as well, but I can imagine the results were phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah. For my wife, I believe it was the best 4 days of our marriage for her. But at night, we could ask questions of our Zen teacher. And this one woman asked a question I'd been struggling with in my head. She said, Sherry, sitting here in this environment, meditating, it's easier because we're here in this environment to do that. But when I go back home, I'm busy. I've got kids. I've got a family. How do I meditate when I'm back home? And what Sherry said did a whole paradigm shift for me. She said, meditating is simply being present. So anything that you're doing that you're truly present in the moment with, you're meditating. And I went, wow. So like if I'm driving, if I'm truly present with driving, I'm meditating. When I have a conversation with someone, I will work to be very present, be there with them, connected. Am I aware of everything else going on? Yes, but I'm there with them, having a conversation with them, because that's allowing me to meditate. Yeah. And that to me is very important. So especially when I'm on stage, I can have 6,000 students in my audience, but if one student's sharing and talking, I'm connected with them and I'm meditating. So all day long, I'm practicing. How many times a day can I meditate? And then I notice where I get distracted. I notice where my mind drifts and I go, good notice. Come back to being present with what you're doing right now. And like, especially say volunteering. I love to volunteer. And one of the funnest volunteer jobs I did was a mastermind group. We were in California and a woman runs a rescue society for animals, but not dogs and cats. She has some dogs, she has some cats, but she actually has zebras. She has a zonkey, which is a zebra donkey. She has a zorse, which is a zebra horse. She has a camel, miniature horses, Mongolian horses.
Where does she rescue these things from?
People that like zoos that get them, but then mistreat them. People that own private animals that mistreat them. And so she brings them in and then she educates. She's one of the foremost zebra experts in North America. And then she'll actually rehabilitate and send zebras to different zoos that are properly set up. Yeah. And so we'll go in. And one of my favorite jobs, and this may sound strange, is actually shoveling zebra shit. And because you have to be very present. You have to be very present. Because the stall I'm in, I was in with one of the main males. And she said, the woman warned me, she said, that's his girls on both sides of him. Don't get between him and his girls, even though there's a fence there. You have to be very present or he'll charge you. So I go into instant mode and I'm like, oh crap. Well, I'm shoveling the crap.
Literally, right? Yes.
But then because she also educates people on how to communicate with animals. And what she had taught us is she said, animals have 3 primary forms of communication. There's the verbal, they make sounds. Physical, you can see the movement and all that. She said, but then there's also the telepathic, the mental telepathy. She
Okay.
said, so if you want to really communicate with an animal, be present and hold so clear in your mind exactly what you want the animal to do. Not just, oh, move from here to there. No, see it, actually lift its head, move. Well, how is it walking? What does it look like? Where does it stop? Where does it go back to grazing?
Mm.
She said, if you hold it that clear, the animal will get it. And so I'm about to go into this huge corral with this, zebra that's, can be very cantankerous.
Yeah.
And so I know he's standing on the cement pad that I've got a shovel. So I'm like, okay, let's put this to the test. And so I'm like making myself present, and I see him because he's nibbling on some stuff, some food, and I see him in my mind lift his head, walk across the stall to the other pad, stop there. And all of a sudden, as I'm visualizing it, I see him lift his head. He walks over to where I want him to go, and he starts nibbling. And I'm just like,
no way.
and I'm like, this is cool. And I'm shoveling his crap, and I'm like, this is awesome. Then all of a sudden I realize I made a mistake. The next place I have to shovel is where I sent him. So then I'm like, and I visualize him going to the opposite corner of the corral, and he walked over. And I was just like absolutely blown away. It just blew me away. And so that's one of my favorite, moments of being truly present. And it's crazy. And I don't know how we got on that topic.
But how cool is it that you had a telepathic connection with a zebra? I mean, that's just phenomenal. That's just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And what a blast. What a blast. And this woman is just such a great heart when we go in and like I say, it's a mastermind group, we go and spend the day and we help pour concrete, we help fix stalls because she struggles just to maintain it herself. Terrible backstory of how she ended up where she is, but just an amazing woman. And so any way we can help her, we do. And that's why that's one of the charities that my wife and I love to support, because we love animals. We love animals. So
yeah, that's great to be able to give back like that.
yeah.
So Robert, if my audience want to get in touch with you or find out more about you on the big web, how can they find you out there?
On the big web. I'm a little pebble in the big web.
You're a boulder, Robert. Come on, let's be honest. You're a boulder.
Thank you. I will receive that. To find me, Facebook is one of the easiest ways. I have a fan page, which is just, when you go on Facebook, put my name in, Robert Riopel, Riopel, Mouse. Oh no, don't do the Mouse. Just Robert Riopel. And you can follow me as I do lessons from around the world and stuff like that. And what I would love to do, Tara, is as a gift for being on your podcast, I'd love to give every one of your listeners the ebook version of my book, Success Left a Clue, so that they actually can utilize it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And now, depending, when do you think people might be hearing this episode? When it'll be out?
From where we are today, it'll be in 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. So if they go to just robertriopel.com.
Yep.
So just, again, my name, robertriopel.com, they'll be able to download the whole PDF, the ebook of Success Left a Clue. But again, remember, it's a workbook. It's not just to be read. Yes. And I want them to actually take the actions, because if they follow the 6 steps in it, they will be able to design a life that allows them to be more present, less stressed, really be able to enjoy life and create what they want in life. And so I'd love for them to do that.
And I'm going to go over there right after and get my own copy.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Put your 6 steps into action. But I promise I will take action. I promise. If not, you can come back and you can shout me, can't you? Because you know who I am. So
I won't shout. I'll just kick you in the butt and say, come on, get with it.
All right, that'll do. Yeah, that'll definitely get me moving. Definitely. So thank you for joining us today, Robert. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's so great to hear your story and learn everything about you and the wave or the tsunami that you're going to make in the world and that you're already making. So thank you for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me as a guest. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. I'll be back next week bringing more meditation, mindset, and motivation for your happy and successful life. To find out more about our community, go to tarachatzakis.com/community /happy inspired motivated.